Okay, now let us proceed with the next learning objective. So LO letter C, so which is to identify and explain the considerations of an auditor in an audit of bank's financial statements. So although take note guys that there are many audit related matters that banks share with other commercial entities. So therefore, there are many audit procedures applicable to audits of other entities that will also apply to the audit of banks. However, there are also unique risks to banking activities. And as auditors are expected to have a sufficient understanding of the business environment of the bank and should also consider referring to the work of an expert or experts when needed. Okay. Now, some of the special audit considerations in the audit of banks are as follows, because of the particular nature of the business of the banks or uh, financial institution na rin, no? Okay, first, we have the particular nature of the risks associated with the transactions undertaken by the banks, as we have explained lengthily earlier in our previous learning objective. So another item that we have to consider is the scale of banking operations and the resultant significant exposures that may arise in the short period. So like earlier, we mentioned that it's highly possible or likely that banks will have operations in a wide geographical area of operations, or even transcending to another jurisdiction like operating in another country. Okay. So another item that we have to consider is the extensive dependence of bank to information technology to process transactions. Another is the effect of regulations in the various jurisdictions in which they operate, especially if some of their branches operate in other countries. And then finally, the continuing development of new products and banking practices that may not be matched by the concurrent development of accounting principles or internal controls. Like for example, right now, the prevalent use of, let's say, cryptocurrency. If banks' operations would normally involve those new or contemporary items in the financial industry, then we also have to consider the effect of those products and services. Okay. Now next, let's proceed to learning objective letter D. So the auditor's objectives in audit of financial statements of banks. Now remember that the objective of an auditor is to express an opinion whether the bank's financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework. Okay. Now, in the context of an audit of financial statements of banks, that means that the auditor should express an opinion whether the bank's financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework of the bank. Okay, the auditor should report also or should also include the description on the applicable financial reporting framework that the management of the bank use in preparing the financial statements. Take note also that when the auditor reports on the financial statements prepared on a different framework, for example, there is a specific framework required by a regulatory agency that is different from the generally accepted accounting principles, or a framework required by another jurisdiction. So in case the financial statements are prepared specifically for use in a country other than the Philippines, we as auditors should consider whether the financial statements contain appropriate disclosures about the financial reporting framework use. Now, the auditor should also consider the effect on his or her opinion in case the bank uses a framework other than the GAAP applicable in that particular country. Okay. Let's proceed with question number 6. So which of the following statements is incorrect regarding the auditor's consideration of bank? So true or false? Letter A. Many audit matters that are applicable to other commercial entities may also apply to banking institution. So letter A is a correct statement. So A is not our answer. Letter B. The auditor should consider the extensive dependence of banks on information technology to process transactions. So letter B is also a correct statement with respect to our consideration of audit of banks FTs. Letter C, The auditor should consider the effect of regulations on their audits of banks, including additional reportorial requirements to regulatory bodies like the SEC and the BSP. So correct also, as we have discussed in the previous items earlier. So there are additional reportorial requirements to be submitted to BSP on certain area or matter. So even if we do not have any findings, we still have to report that to BSP. So consider also that. And letter D, the auditor of bank rarely needs assistance of expert, especially on complex matters like valuation of securities that do not have market price information. Letter D is incorrect. Okay, so normally it should be the auditor of bank ordinarily needs assistance of experts, not rarely. So therefore, number 6 answer is delta. So the term or the word rarely made the statement incorrect. So we normally need assistance of experts in complex areas like valuation of securities. Next, number 7. So which of the following statements correctly describes the objective of an auditor in an audit of financial statements? Letter A, to prepare the financial statements in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework. Letter A is incorrect. So it's not an objective nor a responsibility of the auditor to prepare the financial statements of an entity. Okay, so preparation of the financial statements would be the responsibility of an entity's management. Okay, and those charged with governance, not auditor. Now, if you look at letter B sounds correct. To obtain reasonable assurance whether the financial statements are free from misstatements, whether due to fraud or error, in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework. Okay, so letter B is a correct statement, except that the auditor is not responsible to obtain reasonable or provide reasonable assurance whether the financial statements are free from all misstatements, only from material misstatements. Okay, so because of the missing modifier material, the statement is incorrect. So letter B is also not our answer. Okay, so there should be a modifier material before the term misstatements. So to make the statement correct, to obtain reasonable assurance whether the financial statements are free from material misstatements. So to make it correct. Letter C, to express an opinion on the fairness of the financial statements in accordance with PSA. So letter C is also correct, but we express an opinion not in accordance with PSA, but applicable financial reporting framework, like the PFRS. So meaning our evaluation of the financial statements are made in the context of the applicable financial reporting framework, not the auditing standards, but rather accounting standards. So letter C is also incorrect. So therefore, our best answer is letter D. So to provide reasonable assurance as to whether the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework, such as the PFRSS. So number 7 answer is delta.